Hello, everyone. Today we have Chao with us, and he has a rich experience from different leadership role at various companies, including Salesforce. He was leading Salesforce in very early stages. Probably, Chao, when was that? I think in 2000.
That's right. I was second employee for Salesforce when it first started in Asia. So at that time, I was the product manager looking after China market, Taiwan market. So those are the markets that I covered at the time. Yeah, since then I've been last held roles in senior roles in as a COO of Just Login as a HR tech software company.
Mhm.
Currently, I'm the Chief Growth Officer for CRS, which is a Salesforce consulting company based out in Singapore that's focused a bit on the non-profit sector.
Perfect, perfect. So, how was the journey like? You were into Salesforce and was leading, I think, sales and strategy there. Then you moved out to different companies, and I'm not sure how much of Salesforce was there. And now you're running a Salesforce consultancy. So, can you compress and give me like a quick rundown of how was that experience, how the journey shaped up?
Yeah, I mean, the initial time of Salesforce was just a very small team. We were just several people. Each of us were handling a different country. So everyone
Hmm.
was just pretty much doing everything ourselves. So I've pretty much been a startup guy, building startups. Before this, I was in I built a consulting practice for about 7 years before I joined Salesforce. Grew that to be a venture capital funded and ran it to about 100 people, right? And then the last I left when I was in Just Login, it went from a 10-person operation into a 100-person operation as well. And I think the main thing here is throughout my journey, I have in how small startups can grow from a very small setup to 100 plus people, but with the right tools. And Salesforce has a big part to play in this journey, partly because we were using Salesforce to manage our sales team. We were using Salesforce to kind of grow the business quite a bit in terms of identifying, in terms of marketing. So therefore, I think for me, the Salesforce journey has been very productive. I've learned a lot from both being within Salesforce as well as externally being a customer of Salesforce.
True,
So,
true.
I,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I was just saying, I think one thing which I noticed as a quick pattern is you are meant to grow something from small to large. That's a typical pattern in every career we see. Like if you see your second employee in Salesforce Singapore, then you are repeating that thing. And I think this role with your current company is very well aligned. And you're a chief growth officer. You're meant to grow that thing.
sure. Yeah, I definitely enjoy that process. Having different um, having is always good to kind of see things start from zero where you're easily 1 out of 10, right? Which is 10% of the business. So your impact is
Oh,
definitely much bigger than 1 out of 1,000, which then you're like 0.1% of the business.
right.
So therefore, I think in that sense, these are the same challenges that I see a lot of my customers face. Right? How do they scale? How do they grow up on a pain point? I've done it a few times. I kind of understand the pains that a lot of startups goes through, a lot of small businesses go through on a day-to-day basis. I think that helps me along to kind of understand and have empathy for clients of that sort, and hopefully, can share a little bit of more than just about pitching about products. It's also sharing the experience and know how the world might change as well.
Right, right. And typically not every conversation is about AI, but we cannot ignore that people say AI is taking up jobs, but this is a job they cannot take easily because you have to talk with a lot of people. You're actually raising a kid, taking care of so many aspects. It's not easily a trainable skill for an AI to come and step in. It's more human, more multi-stakeholder kind of deal.
That is true. I mean, AI will not be able to do the work that we all they can't meet people for you, right? I mean, I think they can probably take out the grunt work, the manual work, the paperwork, but I think they can't build relationships for you. So therefore I think especially when developing businesses, it's all about relationships, whether you like the business owner, whether you like the individual, whether the business means anything, whether there's a passion in the people that they work with. It's all human factors that I think AI or machine will probably never be able to replicate properly. And that's probably something that's defensible. The creativity, the relationship building that, I mean, I think in this world of, internet, people maybe want to start looking into, hey, where am I? Where are those areas of being fundamentally human that will keep you relevant in tomorrow's world, right?
Right, right. And that's a hot discussion now. People are figuring out career choices. But yeah, I think let's keep moving. One thing which I noticed in your overview and your journey is you are now working for nonprofits. So one pattern is definitely you grow companies from startup to like large size and then nonprofit. Was that a recent thing with CRS Studio or you are always more or less connected to that nonprofit space? How that whole thing shaped up?
I think CRS Studio is really in that space when I joined. But then again, it also aligns with your current season of life. If you think about it, I mean, as you progress through your career early in your 20s, it's about making your mark, proving who you are, finding who you are, right? In these, you're kind of at this stage where you're like, I kind of know where I am. I'm just working harder to achieve something, accomplish something. When kind of 40s, you're kind of at this stage where you're like, I kind of know my strengths and my weakness, and more trying to identify who you truly are. And when it comes to 50, you're more like, I've learned so much. Maybe it's about time to give back. So
Right,
it's kind of like a different season of life, right? So I think 50s is the point in time where you're a bit more reflective. You realize that winning the rat race doesn't really win anything. You're still a rat, really.
true.
So I think the point is trying to find a point of meaning in life, because you realize that the endless chasing of money, of corporate life doesn't bring you as much joy as what once you thought when you were much younger, right? So I think the point here is you find that when you work with the nonprofits, you see a different angle of humans, right? You see a different angle of society. You see the underprivileged, the distressed. You see the kind of help that other people need, whoever were not able to catch up. It gives a lot more meaning to your work, which is I feel is a lot more satisfying.
Right, right. That's actually very true. Like, I agree to your analogy. 20s, you are shaping up yourself. You don't know what you can do. 30s is a different zone. And by 50s, I think you have a lot in you which you can give back to society. So, non-profits with maybe technology or whatever it is, it's a good way to go about it. So, how did this whole thing started with CRS? How did your leadership team or founding team came together? How did you decided to start off?
I think the point was that uh, it was Salesforce was, I mean, most of the founders of CRS were actually formerly from Salesforce.
Okay,
So I think when they came out of their careers in Salesforce, this was a very untapped market. And I think one of the key things is that when you identify a market, say you want to go into a market where there's a bit less crowded, less competition. And one of the things that probably the early founding team realized is that, look, nonprofits is very underserved, it's meaningful, and at the same time, itself has a lot of they can't find a proper system out there. There's no proper system for nonprofits, right? There is no good system that allows them to scale. And every nonprofits work differently. Every
true.
nonprofits, their processes are almost very different. The volunteers they engage, the donations that they work with, their activities, there is no good system for them. It's almost everything they need is has to be bespoke. So we saw the fit and we felt that I think Salesforce does a very good fit because it's so customizable, it's very powerful, and the core behind it is still a CRM, right? Which a lot of nonprofits, when it comes to donation, volunteers, essentially it's about engaging the community, and the CRM does fit very well. And especially if you put all these, the flexibility of customizing it, platform as a service and setup, it works very well for the nonprofit sector.
Right, right. And how do you see Salesforce enabling this thing? Like, I think they do give 10 enterprise licenses and they have a NPSP nonprofit pack. So, how do you see all this coming together along with the consulting services?
I think having been worked before in Salesforce, Mark Benioff has always been very supportive of the nonprofit sector, right? He always requires a Salesforce employee to contribute 1% at a time to the nonprofit sector. I thought Salesforce investing in this is very aligned with the founder's vision of things about how giving back is, it's evident because the amount of investments they put into the building up the nonprofit clouds, evident that they have spent quite a bit of calories building the product. And when we put it out of the market, a lot of nonprofits tell us the same thing. And it is a very powerful product. And in fact, a lot of nonprofits has built multiple applications on top of it. Some of the clients like Methodist Welfare Services, Care Corner in Singapore, they have built like 10 applications within one Salesforce, managing donation, volunteers, case management, social services, and so forth. It's pretty amazing how much they do, how much they actually can run the whole nonprofit sector with Salesforce itself. So I was quite impressed what our customers have thought of and have rolled out, and it has worked very well for them.
Right, right. And I think as every startup, nonprofit has a journey itself. And typically it starts from, let's say, Word files, Excels, and email only to track everything. And then there is a maturity where they start bringing, let's say, systems like Salesforce or any other. So what are, like, I think you outlined some of the points already, but what are, let's say, top five, top 10, or whatever number you can quote, like challenges which you see with nonprofits before coming to Salesforce and how you have seen them evolve, like from that journey? So more of like
Yeah.
challenges and how that shapes up
Yeah.
on nonprofit
I
side.
think nonprofits usually, when they first started, a lot of founders of nonprofit sector tend to come from, the core of their heart, right? They could have come from a different sector. They might not even in IT when you go into this system. They've never been business owners when you go into this. They might not have the skill set. So a lot of nonprofits starts from very basic. And because of the fact that they are reaching out to, society's donation and things like that. For them, it's not an easy work for them, right? So for them, it's always been a challenge because it's not like big organizations where you can attract very good people with professional experience, they can build systems. Nonprofits tend to be run by, founders with a good sense of the heart, right? And that doesn't necessarily equate to the success of nonprofit sector. So I see that as a real challenge for them, right? Skill sets of the founders doesn't really align with building an organization. Therefore, I think after some times, what you'll notice is a lot of nonprofits tend to be very, how I say, it's they depend on the society, depend on other people to come help them. When you depend on volunteers to run your nonprofits, you'll find that the nonprofits performance tend to be irregular. When they got a good volunteer, yeah, okay, things are well. When they got an inconsistent volunteer, things are not going so well. Or volunteers can be a bit erratic as well. So
True.
what you find is that a lot of these nonprofits have a lot of challenges managing people. It's really hard enough managing employees. Trying to manage and volunteers, that's another ball game altogether. So I will see that, and plus they don't have the funds to invest into a system. So the benefit of nonprofit in Singapore is that the government gives out a lot of grants for the nonprofit sector to digitize the operations, which helps the sector because they definitely need all these nonprofits to service the marginalized society members, right? They definitely need that, but the government can't provide all the services out there. So they need all these different nonprofits to work at it. And the government is coming in to support these nonprofits to help them scale up and digitize. So a lot of profits have embraced this in Singapore. They have gone out there, they got the grants, they built out systems that they need, and we have been part of the process to help them with that. So that really helps. But I think other societies, other countries, they might not be the case. So it's they have to depend on other funders and stuff. I think one of the key things is that this revolution towards AI might be actually be helpful because a lot of systems, if they're digitized correctly, embrace AI properly, they could effectively depend less on volunteers and have a leaner team, which helps them in the end. The lean team can do more of it. So I definitely see a potential here, but I think the main point here, the founder of the business really needs to understand the climate, is to feel that they need to digitize in order for them to embrace this technology, right? Embrace AI, embrace tech, make things are more efficient. So they depend on less variables like volunteers or things to run the whole operation. So,
But
so it,
if we structure the, Mhm.
no, but it's a challenge. I recognize that's a challenge. It's not everybody that has a benefit of having such advice or such funds to do that, especially in the nonprofit sector.
So if we structure this whole thing, you mentioned a good point. Most of the founders start from heart. They might not be very much into tech, but they follow a cause or thing which they want to support the country or society with. And then you're very apt on this point that don't have full-time employees mostly. They bank on volunteers, and then their morale goes up and down. You cannot control that to a good extent. And then the third thing is tech that enables everything. So these are, is it fair to say these are three core challenges, or did I miss anything here?
Yeah, I think these are the three main challenges. Of course, there are the other operational challenges like getting funds and so forth. These are the areas that is beyond the scope of tech, right? But I will say journeys and the politics and all that's really beyond the scope of what a founder can control.
Right,
But I would say that generally speaking, if I were to start a nonprofit today, I think the main point here is I have to probably embrace tech a bit harder. I'll look at, hey, how can I do more with less, right? How can I leverage on AI? How can I embrace all this technology that's out there, like Salesforce, free licenses from Salesforce, right? At least my core base. And then I have to find people that will help me along those journey, right? And not just pick anybody, just make sure that build it up. And hire people selectively with the right skill set and go along with it, right? Because the point here is that it takes a while to build a team. So therefore, if your system is designed in such a way that it requires less uh, person to run it, then generally speaking, you'll have a more efficient system and you can scale a lot better, and then your risk will be lower.
right. So again, let's stack up and we'll come to the AI point. So we definitely got that volunteers is a challenge. Then I think there are typical operations, as you quoted, also donations, tracking the like volunteers, managing this whole thing, maybe in a CRM like Salesforce or another system. And then you quoted that AI can help to a good extent. How do you see AI coming into play, and what will be like two or three key areas where AI will optimize life of nonprofit owners or companies who are nonprofits?
I think a few things that comes to mind. For example, AI when it comes to volunteers, right? Maybe you get a whole list of volunteer database and you got different roles, especially a lot of these nonprofits needs different kind of people for different kind of occasion. You need people who's maybe run a certain event. You need people to do be door-to-door knocking. You need people to drive people around. But you got a pool of volunteers now. If you are to, let's say, hey, I'll determine who is available on a certain day to do certain things, then I think the main point is AI could come in, right? AI could go through all your resumes rather than you go and review your volunteer database yourself. Yeah, I can volunteer and suggest, you know what, volunteer A is free at this, usually free at this time. He wants to do the role as a driver, and he's close enough to your beneficiary that he can come in and help at these hours, right? So the AI can go do all this kind of matching for you. That's one. And then when you come into things like maybe donation, the AI could also come in and say, hey, maybe let's handle all the inquiries that's come in. Right? What happens when I donate this? Do I get a tax deductible receipt? How do I file tax rebate taxes? Especially when a lot of these donations nowadays can be rebate from your taxes. Right? These kind of inquiries come in on a regular basis. You can have the AI help you answer all these queries,
Mhm, mhm.
or you even come to a point where AI can help you canvas for these donations. And you move on to maybe even like a caseworker. I'm dealing with a case, I'm interviewing a case. Maybe why don't we have the AI do the transcript, summarize it, whereas you don't have to deal with a case where you can still work after office hours, update your case notes, update your volunteer notes. So now the AI can do the transcribing for you and over time summarize your whole case file for you, right? Maybe this particular case needs came over the last 5 years, has this issue has been resolved through this intervention. Notes will definitely reduce the load of the caseworker.
I think I'm. Let's take one of the thing at a time. So volunteer, I think that's a lot of manual work. Like who is available, who is rightly skilled, and then you have campaigns and different things going on, as you're saying, like live events, and then going door to door or calling people or whatever it is. So that volunteer mapping will save hours of work if can be done by AI to some extent or to a major extent. Have you seen something coming from Salesforce, or are you trying to do something on that regard? Have you seen anybody optimizing this part? This is very, I think, interesting. I think most
Yep,
laborious also.
it is. It is. So we have started doing some beta proof of concept deployments with a couple of nonprofits, and they like what they see, right? Especially when it comes to case transcribe it. It comes to volunteer matching. We would definitely see a lot of nonprofits interest in that. So we have a couple of customers who are currently evaluating it. I mean, AI is a new thing, right? It has been maybe the since it's only gotten a lot more traction over the last year or so when ChatGPT came out, right? And things are starting now. Serious discussions are starting to happen. So we definitely we'll start to see it probably more deployments, AI-based deployments, maybe I would say 2026 will be a good year where you start seeing a lot of real life cases of people are trying it. But we're really seeing that as it happens as we speak.
Right. And you're optimistic about Agent Force helping you on the nonprofit startup pack here, or you're trying to go beyond Salesforce AI offerings and trying to bring some, let's say, third-party LLMs to Salesforce to help with certain use
Definitely.
cases?
Agent force is definitely one of the many factors, right? I mean, the thing is that's provided the AI is working well within the Salesforce domain, right? For agent force. But if it's outside uh, the domain, like for example, certain areas like using voice for AI, AI for WhatsApp, then we are looking at those complementary technology that we're developing in house to try to make that more complete solution.
Got it. Got it. So I think this is very interesting. We probably got few hints about nonprofit space, their challenges, and how AI is helping them. Now, if we talk about a little bit from the partner angle, like Salesforce consulting business and that thing, how do you see that business in Singapore, and in general your perception about the worldwide thing also? Like, how is managing a small business in today's world?
Yeah, I think when you're, especially if a small consulting practice like us, we're not a very big team, about 20 of us. I think the main point is focus. For us, we chose a niche that works for us, which is non-profit, and we're trying to focus onto that. And I think the other way is to also to focus on a particular industry, a particular segment that is that we could bring value to, right? I think when you're up against, you don't want to be jack of all trades, especially when it's small setup. You kind of want to focus your resources on a beachhead that makes sense. Then we kind of grow from there. Whereas if you go into all markets, say you'll find that you're just competing with everybody else. Every Salesforce consulting partner out there, and then everyone is focused on CRM, basic Salesforce automation, which in the end, every deal we go in, there's like 10 other partners in there. So that makes things in the end you're just fighting a price. And I think being a partner like us so is about trying to find the most value that you bring to the table. Otherwise you're just one of the many.
Right, right. That's a fair point. So I think from consulting companies and the founders who are listening to this conversation, definitely, I think this thing is coming back to back again in many other podcasts also. Pick your niche and focus there. One other thing which
Yeah.
people are talking, like recently 10K published a report where they quoted that the demand of developers has dipped, I think, by 15-20%. People still need good consultants and architects. What's your purview on this thing, like how 2026 and beyond will see in terms of Salesforce developers? At one time, it was a very, very hot skill, but is it the same thing now in Singapore? And what's your perception on that?
Uh, I think it's definitely a hot skill. It's still required, but Salesforce by itself has never been too difficult a product to learn. and and naturally over time as more players more developers get into the market there'll be pricing pressure nevertheless. I think that's where I see that it's about partners looking at value adding rather than just going out there and selling, being one of the many consultants, right? I think the point here is I'm starting to see partners being specialized. I feel like they chose a particular maybe MuleSoft, choose maybe Marketing Cloud, Could be a product focused specialization, could be a domain specialization like us, right? So I think eventually, and it makes sense for the Salesforce themselves, right? They when you go to a conversation that they want to bring a partner in, it's easier for them to say that, hey, partner A has worked with your similar industry, with you know your sector very well. They can talk to the lingo, they understand your pain point, they can propose how best to solve that problem since they've seen it with other players. So I think
Right.
that's the angle that um, these consultants bring to the table. Whereas if you go in and say that I don't know anything about industry, I've never done, I don't value add beyond Salesforce, then I think the conversation would be of very little value and you just be fighting on price.
Right, right. That's true. And that's actually happening in normal deals. There are many generic players stepping in, and niche, probably, as you quoted it correct, it's more of like knowing that industry. Like if you go in a non-profit conversation, you know what they might be facing as a challenge most of the time. So that's easier.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's easier to talk to the domain and talk to the understanding of it. Whereas if you go into another sector, it just feels like, I won't be able to talk to manufacturing as well, right? I won't be able to talk to pharmaceutical as well, right? Because that's
Hmm.
a whole new sector. So, so I would imagine that it's eventually it was come to a point where it's like running any business. You wanna succeed you have to find a domain and do something that not many players are doing. If you want to be a generalist, then you're just not gonna go anywhere.
Right, right. I think solid message for consulting partners. Anything which you would like to say to architects, consultants, and developers, and maybe QA. How should they see their career ahead in next 2 3 years?
Yeah, I think um our architects and consultants, I think you have to evolve, right? You have to evolve. Eventually, I think the value will be is like, hey, how's the best way to architect this for architects, right? It's not. I mean, AI can probably provide you a good 80% of the work done, but you'll probably need to come in and say, look, I've seen how this worked with a certain industry. I've seen what happens when you implement it from another angle, and the value is your personal experience on how that technology will be relevant to the customer. I think that's where the architect's value will come in, right? And you probably have to evolve as well. You have to learn new skills to complement your technology. QA, same thing. I mean, QA eventually AI will come in and do maybe 80% of the work. So I think your value will be to see how good products are built and the value added advice to explain to customers how products should be built. And it's the people process around the product that your value will come in. How you manage those teams, how do you manage the ecosystem? That is your value, the people relationship part of it, right? It's you have to probably step back and look at the human element of your job.
Or can we say like focus more on soft skills and business skills? That
Precisely.
previously tech was a fascination or fantasy of most of the people.
Yeah, you gotta go into the soft skills of things, right? How do you navigate the internal politics, for example, right? You got how do teams work best together? You start probably picking up skills on how to manage people better, right? How to manage team member, how to motivate people. And I don't really have an answer. I think HR will probably give someone whose domain is more HR specific, probably have better answer to that. But I generally feel that it's about personal evolution and sometimes it's about stepping away. Like, for example, my background is in business. I got a degree in business. I got in tech through personal interest. And I'm now taking a course on agriculture tech. So what you'll find is that as you step out your boundaries and start looking at things, you find that in different disciplines teach you different things. For
True.
example, my personal habit in sports realized that it taught me about forward planning, about planning a training plan, right? You know exactly what to do. I have a training plan in place so that you don't have to think about how do you want to exercise today, because the training plan will work that out for you, right?
Correct.
And then you go into agriculture, then you realize the complexity of the agriculture industry. Those are the areas that maybe a Salesforce could come and help, right? So I could start talking into that industry. So I think the point is that you need to be constantly learning and improving yourself rather than just, hey, I took a university degree and forever I would just be talking about that because I don't think your life is going to, it's not going to be a standstill situation. You have to keep adding new skills throughout your life, keep learning, keep adding new stuff.
Right, right. Love that part, like to explore agriculture, maybe other industries to broaden your horizon. But I think
Yeah.
people of younger generation and Gen Z might find it preaching if we talk more about it. Let's go to some fun thing, light thing towards the end of the conversation. We most often ask each other, what is your favorite LLM or favorite tool? Like, do you use ChatGPT more, Cloud more, or any other tool for your day-to-day conversations?
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but for me, like I've got into ChatGPT, decided to subscribe to it properly, and I've started to get it to work out things for me, right? Like not just random questions, but as well as say, hey, maybe write out SOP for me, right? Or write out
Mhm.
maybe RFP for me, right? Reply to RFP for me. And I'm like, I'm pretty impressed on how he was able to now with proper your own account. It remembers what you're dealing with, right? It helps you. And I'm thinking, look, there's so much time saving that 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 one point in time contemplating whether to get a virtual assistant. But now the AI it's doing 50% of that, and I just can't wait till the AI can, start planning my schedule for the week for me, right?
Right, right.
Which I read a lot
I
of
think
people are doing
privacy
that.
is no, right. We don't have any privacy. That might be happening sooner or later. I
Yeah,
mean, they know everything about us. But you like
yeah,
ChatGPT more, like you,
yeah. I do, I
how
do.
big it?
I mean, I haven't played the rest. I've played Gemini. I mean, play a bit of Copilot. I, I, I think just right now, I think they're all similar. In the end, I'm not using them as heavily as be an engineer would be using them. But I definitely see a lot of potential there. I mean, yourself, are you learning quite a bit as well?
Yeah, I mean, my
Any
things
progress?
fluctuate a bit. So as you said, I started with ChatGPT. Then I liked Perplexity initially because then it started giving me very good citations and its ability to thread up things and find things was really good. But yeah, ChatGPT, I think it's a, you can say, marriage kind of problem that knows us so well that it's easy to start conversation. That's anti-privacy at times, like Cloud. It never remembers your past conversations, but ChatGPT
Oh,
is all deep into you. So it's easy for them to get full context from anywhere. But yeah, I think
yeah,
ChatGPT is good fallback. At times it is Cloud for certain things which are a little different. So it keeps on
yeah,
changing.
yeah, yeah. But I definitely see the value, and that's the reason why I feel that the next few years is going to be a revolution of sorts, right? Even
Right.
how we write software is going to be different, right? I mean, think about it. Do you need rows of fields to fill in nowadays, right? Yeah. Or do you need a full dashboard or report? You can just ask the ChatGPT to, or AI to give you those reports, right? Which is
Correct.
kind of like evolving towards where like um, AI was at least how systems were visualized back in like Odyssey 2000 movies, for example, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
it was you were talking to the machine and the machine was answering your questions. Just how humans do really work. It's only later on we started looking at forms and pages of data that you had to digest and but most of the time when you go into a system, you realize that you're actually going with a question in mind. And now you don't really need to look at a system because you can actually ask the system. So it requires a big a rethinking of how the world is going to interface with, you know, with um, yeah. I don't know. And just right now, do you need to build an app? AI can do that for you.
Yeah, I think to a good extent, definitely. But I think we have covered a lot on AI. Now, I think one
Yeah.
thing which I strike really with me is in this conversation is your interest towards agriculture. So towards last, if I just ask you some questions beyond work, what's your favorite sports like? How do you spend rest of the time? Like, what's your favorite exercise type? Like, do you like yoga? You are into strength training, Zumba, or what do you do?
Yeah, so a couple of years back, I started going into triathlons,
Hmm.
and actually, it was kind of my bucket list to finish Ironman
Oh,
in
nice.
yeah to finish Ironman by time 50. So I actually achieved it last year when I was 51. So I completed the full Ironman last year. And in that journey, I mean, I was never thought I could achieve it. It's a long race, right? It took me almost like 15 plus hours to finish the race. Start
Okay. And how
and
long you prepared for this thing for Ironman? Like a few
I
years,
think it's
probably.
a few years, but I've been doing the shorter races and slowly build up from there. And what I've learned in the process is what looked uh, unimaginable in the beginning suddenly became the reality, and I was able to achieve it by just taking small steps. It's just the concept of training plans, which I mentioned briefly before,
Mm-hmm.
whereby I bought a training plan and it planned out my whole like 6 months worth of training. Like, today you're gonna cycle, tomorrow you're gonna run, then you're gonna swim. It's not random, and it comes to a point where it tells you, oh, when you swim, you need to swim maybe 3 laps first, rest, swim another 4 laps, rest, then do this drill, do that drill. It's like the swimming plan. And then you go further in, like the running, it's like, oh, you gotta run, maybe fast for like, 2 minutes and then slow down for like 3 minutes. It works out these in such granular details that there's actually a science behind it. And by just following the plan, I was able to achieve my goals. So I think it just comes to a point where when you're building a business, when you're building any project for that matter, I think that it works if you could plan it out, right? I don't do it all the time. I agree. It's not great, but if I were to take away from my lessons learned probably in 2026, I mean, you know what? If I'll plan something for business, I'll plan it for the whole year. First month, let's do this, right? These are the exact details, and have a proper plan so that you can build it up to somewhere you want to go. But
And how much is like daily time commitment you gave like for last few years
it,
to
it-
reach
it's
there?
about it's about on average about an hour a day of exercise, and maybe 3 to 4 hours on the weekend. So
Okay.
altogether, it's about 10 hours, 12 hours a week.
Yeah. Right.
And after a while, you make it part of lifestyle. Sorry?
I mean, it must be very diet conscious thing also because if you train
Uh,
even on weekend for 3 to 4 hours, that requires diet discipline
yeah, it
too.
requires a lot of food.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of food. So it actually gives you a good exercise excuse to eat and exercise. So
Yeah,
it's not too bad, I
metabolism
think.
must be right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, maybe you want to try it sometime.
Yeah, I mean, every time I hear about this Ironman thing, it gives me like a goosebump, like, okay, yeah, someday, but let's see when this happens.
Yeah, well, I don't, you know what? The first thing you need to do is set a target, right? I'll do this by a certain age,
Right.
and then sign up for a race. And then next thing you know, you have to buy a plan. You have to get there.
I will also keep 50 as a target. 50 will be good celebration for me then. Okay, I'm turning
Yeah,
50 and
yeah.
I'm Ironman.
How
It's a
many
good
more years you have to
milestone.
go?
Yeah, few years. I'm little old, like little gray hair here.
It's all right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's 50 will be, I think the point here is design your life, right? I've hit a point when in the 40s, I was like suddenly like, what's your bucket list? Like let's have a proper bucket list, and I actually kind of have a mental bucket list. Like, so I did a backpack to South America, um, travel around Argentina, travel around Brazil, and so forth. So that was kind of like a backpacking thing. Go see the world, right? Ironman was one of them. Finishing a marathon was one of them. So these are things that you kind of check off, right? So, so I think it's at least you kind of design your life that you think at the end of the day you have no regrets, and 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 I think it worked for me because with this I feel that there's always a new challenge, and after every challenge you look for a new one.
True. True. You up the game with each challenge that
Yeah,
way. So, Chow,
and
I
that's
think towards the end. Mhm.
no. I think I would encourage everyone is like you're not everyone's gonna spend a couple of decades on this planet. I think it's worth thinking how you want to spend it.
Right. Rather than just going by the flow. So it's good to plan a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Only one last question, Chow, from here is what's your favorite book? Like if you have to recommend to people, or maybe two of them.
Interesting that you should say that. I think certain books that comes to me will I read a lot of self-help books.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I came across a book by David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, this Navy SEAL guy, and
Mm-hmm.
pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And he talks about mental toughness, right? I mean, you talk about this Navy SEAL who was overweight and he lost so much weight that he's able to be eligible to get Navy SEAL in a short time. And especially when you're in endurance sports, you realize one thing is like you're building up. Why do I like endurance sports? Because you're building up this a lot of muscle grit, especially when you push yourself to the limit, your body's aching, you're in pain, you're like up to the last minute. It's your body is signaling that you're tired, you're miserable,
Mm,
you're in pain. And imagine the kind of mental strength you have to go through to force yourself to say, you know what, that is just noise and I can keep going, keep going, and keep going. And over time, that particular pathway in your head builds up the kind of strength and ability that for you to go through all the challenges in life. And I felt that was quite an interesting observation. And and a lot of times when you're like whether you want to get up in the morning, whether you want to do certain things, you find that what's stopping you is not a physical thing. It's that little noise in the head that tells you, I can't take this. I can't wake up now. I'm too tired. Right?
right. Or maybe
It's a little
tomorrow I will
noise.
do it. Yeah.
Yes. It's that little battles that you go in within your head. And
Right.
and how did and it's actually you are trying to conquer yourself, not anybody else, just yourself. And how do you do that day in, day out? Get that noise out of your head to the point like, you know what, the noise is going on, and you gotta like step away, I'm gonna still wake up. And it's not an easy thing to do. And
Mm,
I find that building that muscle, the ability to day in, day out and keep doing it, it's an amazing skill and a life skill to learn.
true. True. And the book's name is The Contract.
No, the book's name is called Can't Hurt Me.
Don't hurt me.
Hurt Me by David
Can't hurt me.
Goggins.
Okay. Let me just Google it quickly.
Yeah, Can't Hurt Me.
Hurt Me by David Goggins. Master your
Yeah.
mind and defy the odds. Okay, perfect. I will attach it to the YouTube video for people who want to take a look.
Yeah. There was a YouTube video with him and Andrew Huberman and they talked about it. I mean, you can listen to that interview, and that was something there is a biological science behind it as well.
Okay.
So certain people with the very high endurance at that level, certain part of their brains is much bigger than the rest.
Okay. Because you've trained
Yeah,
that muscle a lot. So just like the
that's
biceps and triceps.
yeah. So you should watch that interview and probably another book to kind of like uh many books like 5 a.m. Club. You heard that?
Yeah, Robin Sharma, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, Ravi Sharma. Yeah, then the Monk so is Ferrari.
Right, right.
Yeah. So
This one is
so
new
so a
one,
lot of
Can't Hurt Me. Yeah, this one I know.
you never heard of it? It's a bestseller for the last 2 years.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is having 75,000 ratings on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty good. I was amazed at what he can do, and that kind of stood out for me. I'm like, God, this guy is not a human.
Right, right. Perfect, Chow. I think it's really amazing. I think we are towards the end of the conversation. First of all, I'd like to thank you for sparing nearly an hour with me. We covered a lot of things like nonprofits, your journey, especially growing companies from startup to large size, and the human angle of nonprofit challenges and AI and whatnot. And then the whole self-help section with this nice book. Any parting thoughts before we close the conversation?
No, I think in general, it's about, I just love to, I mean, maybe for me, it's a bit of a higher calling, more like, hey, you got this temp, couple of years of life on this planet. That things, life will show you all sorts of things, right? But I think there's the part where everyone should just keep moving forward and, you know, and the good things are just around the corner. And I'll urge your listeners to maybe, just keep going forward and be brave. And I think we're gonna be okay.
True, true. And that's also relates to the spiritual part. Like we all have a journey to do. The more we progress, the sooner maybe we liberate it.
Yeah. Thank you. So
Perfect. Now, thanks a lot.
enough. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and look forward to speaking someday.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.